Hey, it's Shane. Welcome to part 3 of the series where we build our next adjustable razor in public. And first, I'm sorry it's been a little long since part 2. My wife and I just had our first baby a month ago, so I've been a little busy with that, and I've fallen behind on recording. The good news is that development of the adjustable is actually way ahead of schedule and ahead of our video series. So I need to catch up on making videos, but the razor is definitely on track and production's moving forward really nicely. Speaking of production, we actually just cleared a major hurdle. So our production partner on this project, Kinetic CNC, with Tyler, our neighbor, they just acquired a new mill-turn lathe, and that's going to let them make the knob, handle, and stand for this razor. So without that piece of machine, we would not be able to make this product at all. So that's a huge hurdle we've just cleared. Tyler is now getting up to speed on that machine and practicing production. So we needed that to make this product, and that was a huge, huge win for us. While Tyler's getting up to speed on the mill turn, we're still moving forward on design and testing and product development. So we're gonna get into talking about the adjustable V3 pretty soon here, but honestly the update's kind of light. So first I thought it might be nice to talk about adjustable razors broadly. What's the point of them? How do they work? And should you get one? So there are two main types of adjustable razors. The first are the true adjustables with a knob that lets you change shave settings on the fly. These are razors like the Gillette Fat Boy, or the Rex Ambassador, or the Merkur Future, whatever it's called. Even our own adjustable is this type of razor. And these are the ones you most likely think about when you think of adjustables. The other type of adjustables are the razors that pretend to be adjustables because they let you swap base plates or flip base plates to change shave settings. They're not really true adjustables. And these are razors like our own Era, or the Christopher Bradley by Carve, or the Rockwell 6S. These are razors that let you pick a shave setting, but you can't really change it while you go. But no matter what type of adjustable razor you're talking about, they all operate with the same principles in mind. Basically, using a mechanism of some sort, they change the location of the safety bar, so that changes the shaving geometry of the razor, mainly the blade gap and blade exposure. This gives the user more control over their shaving experience by letting them pick the exact setting that's perfect for them and the shave that they need. Most adjustable razors move the safety bar up and down by using threads, and that's typically how the vast majority of adjustable razors work. And I want to make a quick point on this because there seems to be a misconception by a lot of people about adjustable razors. And that is, a lot of people seem to think that razors that just move the safety bar up and down only change the blade gap and do not change the blade exposure. But that's not true. All adjustable razors change both the blade gap and the blade exposure. And I'm going to show you how this works. So you see here on this razor, the blade gap is shown in green and the shaving plane is shown in red. The shaving plane is just the plane created between the top cap and the safety bar. So if you put the razor on your skin, that's called the shaving plane. And if the blade extends beyond that red line, that means you have positive blade exposure. And if it falls behind the red line, you have negative blade exposure. If it just touches it, that's neutral. So in this first shave setting, you can see the blade gap is really small, the shaving plane is shallow, and the exposure is negative. Now, without changing anything else, let's just move the safety bar lower and see what happens. Okay, so we can see, of course, that the blade gap is much larger, it's increased. But look at what happened to the shaving plane. By moving the safety bar down, the shaving plane becomes steeper, and now the blade is sticking out beyond the plane, which gives us positive blade exposure. And so by changing nothing else, by just adjusting the safety bar in the Z direction up and down, we've also adjusted the blade exposure at the same time that we've adjusted blade gap. Those two characteristics are not independent of one another. Okay, so that's great. Now we know kind of how adjustables work and how those inputs change the shaving geometry. Have you ever kind of thought to wonder, how do people actually use these things? I mean, are they changing them all the time during their shave? Are they changing them just once at the beginning of the shave? Or do they just pick one shave setting and never touch it again? The answer is all three, right? The first case, people like to pick a setting based on their needs for that day. So maybe they didn't shave all weekend, they have a lot of growth. They're going to need a high setting to hack through that extra growth. Or maybe they just need a really quick shave. They don't want to focus, so they're going to pick a low setting so they can just be in and out of the bathroom without having extra time. And I think this is the most common use of adjustable razors. I think it just lets people have one razor that gives them a lot of different uses depending on what they need for the day. But the second type is people who change during the shave. And the reasons that you might do that are some people like a aggressive, efficient setting at first with the grain to mow down that growth. And then they'll come through with a lower setting for against the grain. And that gives them a close shave without being too harsh. Some people even shave with different settings at different places on their face, like their chin needs a level 5 and their cheeks need a level 4. I think that person is pretty uncommon and they're pretty deep into like the shave nerddom, but they still exist. And the third type is the person who buys an adjustable razor because they just want to be sure that the razor will work for them. They don't actually care about adjusting it very often, if at all, but they know that by picking a razor that works across a wide range, that they're probably going to fall somewhere in there and be pretty happy. So adjustable razor is really just insurance that they're going to wind up with a razor they like. They'll probably pick one setting, maybe two, and they're just going to lock it in and never touch it again. And that third person is actually like a big part of the business case for making an adjustable razor. It's that it gives the customer some sort of guarantee that this product is going to work for them. That makes our jobs easier from a production inventory standpoint because we just have to make one product. We don't have to make 10 different base plates. And it makes it way easier from an education standpoint. If someone comes to us and says, hey, I have this type of sensitive skin, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to go, hey, this razor is going to work for you. When you have something like the Era or even the Blackbird, we have to figure out, okay, they can be best suited with the Blackbird Light or the regular Blackbird, or maybe they need the Era level 3, but what about the level 4? And it makes it difficult for us and for the customer to know exactly which is the right choice for them. But an adjustable razor takes out the guesswork. It's going to work for you because you can make it work for you. And that makes it really compelling for the customer. And of course, that makes it a great business case for us. All right, so here is the V3 base plate. And the first thing you're gonna see is that it looks a lot like V2. As we go forward, you guys are going to see that these updates physically are going to be less substantial. They're all going to look the same. Right now, we're getting into refinement. We're refining the details. We're refining the knob settings. We're adding little fillets and chamfers, and we're just getting into the nitty gritty, and that doesn't show too well on camera. But I'm still going to go over the changes we made for V3. They're subtle, but they're real. So you can see here we're working on testing engraving for our name and on the knob with the setting numbers as well. The lighting may not agree with me, but we'll try to show some of those. It's important to note that this knob was made on a different piece of equipment than the mill turn, which is much more accurate and allows us to make this part a lot more easily and make it a lot nicer. So these engravings are really just kind of placeholders, but they are still important. And we're going to figure out what to do with this blank space between the top setting and between the highest setting and the lowest setting. Probably put some sort of logo there or something. On the other side, you can see this is roughly what we'll have for the indicator. And that might be a little bigger. We're not exactly sure what it's going to look like, but that points to your setting here. So for example, if we want to have it on setting 2, we would do something like that, right? On the top, we have that new cool Tyler Jarrett top plate that I was skeptical of, but it looks really cool. It's all lightweighted. The underside has also been skeletonized, and it's just perfect. We added some fillets here to smooth out the safety bar, so that's really comfortable on the skin. And we've also just kind of refined this shape. You're not going to see anything on this video, but just know that in person it looks a little nicer, it's a little softer, all the corners are nicely chamfered or filleted, and it's just becoming a much more finalized product. The shave itself we've also played with. So we're trying to nail a very wide range of settings, and the way you do that is by increasing the pitch of the knob. So the knob obviously has that thread. A high pitch means that for each turn, you move a lot. A very small pitch means that you turn it one time and it barely moves, vertically. And so we're trying to dial in the exact right pitch of those threads to give us a really broad range of settings. So like I talked about, I think in the first video, we don't want an adjustable razor that's still aggressive or mild. We want it to be all of the above. I want some people to only be able to use levels 1 and 2, and I want others to only use level 8 and 9 because those settings are so different from one another. We want a really wide range to cover everyone. So we're dialing in that pitch. Obviously that is invisible, but we're working on that, and we've played with it here. This one, we went with a slightly smaller pitch. And so this one tops out at like kind of mid-aggressive to just touching, pretty efficient. And we're gonna bump that up. So V4, we already ramped that up a bit, and that's gonna be a big part of what we're doing is dialing that in. Also, figuring out and testing exactly where to put these numbers is important. And the knob itself is gonna be a big, source of prototyping. So even though we're on, this is V3 of the whole thing, there's going to be many more revisions of the knob itself, because the knobs are where a lot of the magic happens. First, it is the main place where you interact with it. So for example, right now, we don't have really any grip on here. So what we've done for V4, which we'll show, is we actually extended the knob a little bit to add grip kind of down here, almost like doubling the length of it. We also have to make sure that it looks quite right and that the tension on it is right. So this one's actually tensioned pretty well. You'll see when we get to V4, that one, or maybe it's V5. See, I'm totally we're ahead. The tension's a little too tight. And so we have to get that just right. You want to be able to turn it nicely, give good resistance, but not be difficult to turn. And so we're going to have many revisions of the knob. We also, I don't think you'll be able to see it, we've also worked on making this thing disassemblable for us. So we've developed a custom tool that will drop in here and be able to pop out the knob. You won't be able to do it at home. Some of you guys will MacGyver a solution, be able to do it, and that's cool. But we're working on a way to service this razor in-house. Also, this engraving is going to change. It's more of a placeholder. We kind of just wanted to put something there for now. It's pretty basic. I think it's like Arial font or something. But it looks okay. We're going to spice that up a little bit. But this thing is starting to shave really, really well. It's really light, it feels great, and it's just really, really smooth. Level 1 does something, and level 9 does a lot. And that's basically what we want out of this thing. So super happy with how this is going. I know this isn't a very substantive update, but that's just kind of how it's going to be. We're going to be refining it. V4 is going to look the same as V3, but the knob's going to be changed a little bit. It's more heavily filleted, and we're just going to keep making refinements. These refinements can get smaller and smaller and smaller. At some point, we could probably call this V3 or V2.1 or something, but we're not doing that. We're just going to go V1, V2, V3, even though the changes are going to get smaller as we get closer. The next big thing we're going to be doing now that we have the mill turn is handle. So that handle has been designed, but we can't really make it yet. So that'll start coming out on, we'll probably start showing that with the part 5 of the razor. We'll probably start getting the handle and the stand and the whole assembly together. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed part 3 of our series, and I hope you liked the bit about the adjustable razor kind of concept. Let me know what you think about that. We can start sprinkling in more of the kind of foundation of shaving into these videos and in future videos as well. But we'll be back with part 4 of this series sooner than later, probably within a week or so. I'm trying to get back into a regular routine. And by the way, thank you guys for 1,000 subscribers. That's pretty exciting. Of course, we're not really starting from scratch. We kind of cheated, but we appreciate you guys, and we're happy to have you here. So as always, like, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.